Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Newcastle Borough Council's Cabinet meeting. Welcome to Cabinet members and officers in the room, and also our members of the press as well, and also anybody watching on the live stream or on watch back on YouTube as well. If you'd like to see the agenda, it's on the council's website. I'll introduce Cabinet members today. We've got Cabinet member Craig Scalding for leisure, culture and heritage. We've got Councillor Jill Eason for community safety and wellbeing, and we've got David Hutchins, who's our portfolio for sustainable environment, and Councillor Andy Fear, who's the portfolio for street planning, and sitting next to me, a deputy leader and portfolio for finance, town centres and growth, Councillor Steve Sweeney, and I'm Councillor Simon Tiger, leader of the council. So we'll crack on with our agenda. First item is apologies, we don't have any full cabinet members who are here. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Do you have any declarations of interest from cabinet members for any items on the agenda? Not seeing any. Okay, we'll move to item 3, which is the minutes of our last meeting, which are detailed on pages 5 to 8 of the agenda from our meeting of the 21st of April. Can we agree those as a correct record? Good. And that moves us to our first item of business, which is the Wally's Quarry odour update. And I say this every time and have done for the last 2.5 years that first item on our agenda is a Wally's Quarry's update because of the ongoing issues at Wally's Quarry landfill on the borders of Silverdale. And I'm going to ask our Chief Executive, Simon Kelly, to give an update on the report.
Thank you, Leader. The report's on pages 9 to 34 of your agenda. There are several appendices to that which show the complaint data, etc. I'll just take you through the report very quickly and very briefly. Unfortunately, we have seen a rise in complaint data throughout the months of April and May. In May, there were 339 complaints made to the council, and already in June, we've had 18. Most of these, the big spikes, mainly at the weekends of the month of May, where complaints have come through in Saturdays and Sundays. Not entirely sure why this is happening. We're talking with Wally's about it. It's been very wet and it hasn't been very windy, which we think has not helped the atmospheric conditions of the situation. But we are working with Wally's to find out what the causes of that are. You'll probably know from previous reports that where we've had 10 or more odour complaints in one day, we call it an odour event. We've had 5 odour events in April, which is unacceptable, and with 25 complaints in one day on the 1st of April, which was the highest in the month. And unfortunately, we had 15 odour events in May, predominantly over the Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and weekends. 21st of May being the worst, with 29 complaints in one day. And as I say, we're working with Wally's to try and understand why that is. And hopefully, as the time progresses and as it gets better, it does feel like the complaints scenario as in the winter months rather than the summer months. So it's not the best news, I'm afraid. It was disappointing to report over the recent winter period being a continued deterioration in the odour conditions for bodies, as shown on the data. And this has continued through April and May. So again, it's not good news. In terms of the legal action that we're taking against Wally's Quarry, we have written to the Secretary of State since the last meeting. We said we would be doing that. The last update, we've sent that letter into the Secretary of State, and we are now awaiting a response from the Secretary of State. We've also appointed leading environmental experts to prepare expert evidence that our KC has requested as a prerequisite for any commencement of legal proceedings. And when we receive that permission from the Secretary of State, at the moment we are not aware of when that will come through, but we are continuing to chase the best we can. In terms of the scrutiny, the continuing inquiries continue to meet. We set that up in the last couple of months. The first meeting was on the 26th of February, as you know, and at the 1st of May, we had a member briefing information session to help members understand some of the more technical issues involved in Wally's Quarry, because it isn't something to pick up. It's a lot of technical side to the odour emissions, the way a quarry fill is managed, etc., and the effects of the operations. And the next date for that committee or inquiry is now planned for the 23rd of July, where participants will be invited to appear before members and ask questions and provide statements. That's all detailed in 2.12, 2.4 on the scrutiny side. And then the last issue really is the data adjustment that we're expecting from the Environment Agency. There was some concern earlier in the year that the formula calculations were incorrect and that the data received out of those calculations were incorrect. And we were hoping that we could get some information out of the Environment Agency with the new data numbers. We haven't received that to date, and again, we are still chasing that up from EA. We are continuing monitoring the site as best we can. We're out there with our officers sniffing, with their recording equipment, etc. And just fingers crossed that we start to see some improvement in the next couple of months.
Thank you, Simon. I think three issues really to discuss at Cabinet today. I think one is the obviously upsurge again. We've seen it on complaints. We've seen a lot of noise on social media about the increase in odours again around the weekend time, which has always been the case. And again, this operator is not running the site really enough in a good way to be able to stop the odours from coming out of it. That's always been the case. So I think the EA again, we always say have those powers and they should be using them. I think from our point of view, obviously we made the decision to move forward on legal action, and we've obviously wrote to Secretary of State. Unfortunately, the general election has intervened in that, and we understand now that we're not going to be hearing from Secretary of State until after the general election, so that'll be post July the 4th. Is that true, Sam?
We have heard neither before or after the 4th. We've just heard nothing. We've asked the question of David. It's likely that we won't hear. We haven't officially been told.
Right.
Sorry.
That's what you had been.
No.
Right. Okay. We await that. Obviously, let's hope as soon as the Secretary of State is in a condition to be able to seek the advice of the Environment Agency and others to be able to give us a decision on that. But I think our work on legal action continues anyway in the background, doesn't it? So once that decision has been taken, hopefully we can obviously move forward on legal action. And any updates if it's on feedback.
As I say, we've appointed our experts now that starts to look at the data that's come through and to focus on what's happening. I think the bodies will be able to take it if we are able to advise, etc. So those contracts have been let, and those experts are now on board working with the KC to come up with the legal bits and bobs that they need for the case. So we haven't stopped. So when we do get confirmation, we should be ready to go.
Okay, thank you. That's good news. And then on the calibration issue, I think we've been waiting many months for this now, haven't we? And again, the public have been waiting many months for this, wanting to know whether the data, which we know was incorrect, coming from the miscalibrated equipment, how that was affecting the figures going back a long period. And it's disappointing again that we keep having deadlines that the DEFRA and then the EA are not able to report back on. And I think we've had them, end of last year, end of January, March, May, and of course now we're fastly approaching into June now, and then July, etc. And I think it's really unfortunate. It's out of our hands, but I think we can keep pressing the Environment Agency particularly to enable us to assess how bad the odours were under the recalibrated data. I'm going to open to Cabinet members now for any comments on particularly those 3 points, I think. Andy.
Thanks very much, Simon. No, and thank you, Simon, for the other Simon, for the reports as usual, full, and it's good to have the data, even if the data isn't particularly happy reading, and it isn't, is it? Let's be honest about this. I mean, the notion of the odour event, I mean, it sounds very bland saying there are 15 odour events in May, but that's of course half of May, isn't it, if we think about it, which is quite shocking. I wonder whether the spikes at the weekend aren't a simple thing, that many more people will be residents in their houses at the weekend. So in other words, I mean, it's certainly not tolerable that this thing is around any other time, but it also, perhaps we can see here, is now actively depriving people of the times when they can relax after putting in a week's work and such like. So that's pretty shocking as well. As the leader has said, I mean, I'm just gobsmacked by. I mean, I was gobsmacked about the ineptitude of the calibration to start with. But now, where is the real data? This is nearly halfway through the year. Wouldn't it be nice if the EA showed a fraction of the urgency that we have done here at the council by putting our experts in place, being good to go? All we seem to see is dithering. Perhaps there's not even dithering. I don't know. I just think it's absolutely shocking. I was very heartened when we had a change at the top of the EA. I thought things might change with that, but unfortunately, it seems that they're lapsing back into their old habits. I am heartened that we're good to go. I think it's almost inevitable if we have to have permission to be good to go from the government. Now we're in a general election. That's going to delay the process. And again, what heartens me, I'm not heartened at all by that, but I am heartened that we've fulfilled our side of the stuff so that when we get someone in the middle, and I don't really care what the colour of government it is in the middle, I want to see them treat this at the top of their priorities. I mean, this has been going on far too long in Newcastle. We need to get that permission. We need to get going, but at least we are ready to do that.
Thank you, Andy. Any other comments, Steve?
I think there's so much. I've got nothing original to say. I agree with everything that Andy Pierce just said. The recalibration has gone for months and months and months. Is that difficult? I mean, I think I agree entirely with it. It makes you wonder. They're just going back into their old ways. I mean, it's Newcastle, so who cares? I mean, it can't be that hard. It seems to be 6 months plus since this happened. And how does it take to do it? It's just doesn't do it again. I think that it's absolutely appalling.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comments? I think just lastly, and I know Dave's been representing Cabinet on the Wallace Quarry hearing scrutiny process, and it's good to hear that is obviously got up and running, and they had to delay the date because of the general election period. But as soon as that's out of the way, we'll get those hearings up, and that is to give our local community, local partners, and also a chance to hopefully scrutinise the EA's role in this as well as the council as on the student committee. To look forward to having more news back on that. I think so. I think just to wrap up this item, unless we've got any more speakers, no. I think we're ready, as our officers have said, as Andy has reiterated, we are ready to go. Once the Secretary of State gives permission, we need to pursue a legal course, and we'll be obviously informing the public more at the time what that's going to be. We can't at the moment as we're putting that together. And I think we are again frustrated by the lack of news on the recalibration, and we're also disappointed that there are still evidence coming from this site. And I think it's something which we need to really reinforce with the EA yet again, and also with the operator. And I think through our relationship with the operator, we have moved through the abatement notice process, Simon. If you could really, in the next meeting with them, express the disappointment that the owners are rising again during the summer months, which is usually a period when the owners aren't that strong. And I think the weekend issue, I think Andy is onto something there about more people being around at home, of course, but also we see the monitoring data also does spike over weekends as well. And also our handheld equipment that our staff go out and monitor with also picks up more at the weekend. So there is an issue there, which I think we need to ensure we get to the bottom of. But I think we're set there on potential legal action if we give permission. And we'll keep the public updated on as we move forward on that in the future. But we're asked to note the report today. Thank you again to our staff that are working on this throughout the week, often over weekends as well, to assess all this data. Every bit of data we have helps us to help us with our legal action and build a case against this operator. So I would encourage people to continue to report to the Borough Council and to the EA through the systems we've got if there are owners that they smell in their property or when they're out and about in the community. So recommendation of the report will agree. Thank you. We'll now move to our next item, which is the refresh of the council's sustainable environment strategy. And hand over to David Hutchins, who's going to introduce this item.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. The report today is in 3 parts. We have the sustainable environment strategy. Then we have the sustainable environment delivery plan, and then we have the external funding for the capital programme. In early 2023, the council commissioned development of a costed roadmap to net zero for the council's own operations and estate to reach net zero by 2030. In section 1.6 of the report, you can see that we are on our way now, 2023 to 2027. Expectation that low carbon is the norm, and we are doing well on the journey to net zero. It's worth highlighting the positive actions which have been commissioned and or completed as part of the original Sustainable Environment Strategy Action Plan, which are positively reducing the council's carbon emissions. Notably, we've introduced the use of hydro-treated vegetable oil fuel as a clean alternative to diesel in its HGV fleet. We're reducing carbon emissions there by vehicles by 90% during the first 6 months of 2023. We have approximately 63 vehicles in the Sustainable Environment fleet. 38 of them have now been converted to HVO or changed to electric, and there's more vehicles planned in the 2024 to 2027 period. We planted over 15,000 trees in the first 4 phases of the urban tree planting strategy. We just need, I'm just waiting on the data now for phase 5, but we're already planning phase 6. We provided sustainability training to all employees and members of the council and begun looking into enhanced carbon literacy training for scrutiny cabinet and for senior managers. To date, we've reduced the council's own carbon emissions by 43% since 2019. It's also worth noting the council is an active partner of the Sustainable Environment Staffordshire Sustainability Board, made up of senior members and officers with responsibility for sustainability and climate change for all the 10 local authorities in Staffordshire. Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council has achieved all 10 actions of the Sustainable Board's based pledges, and we've signed up to and supported a countrywide communication plan for climate change. We've signed up to support the county council's electric vehicle strategy, and we've signed up and supported the county council's climate change adaptation strategy. Since the council has approved the site and fleet decarbonisation roadmap in October last year, the council has made extensive progress in decarbonising its own buildings. This includes the electrification of the Lutton Lane Depot. Jubilee 2 Leisure Centre has begun the process of decarbonisation through the installation of more LED lighting, pool cover, and research into heating the pool facilities with a deep green database. We're decarbonising Kitchgrove Town Hall through air source heat pumps, and we're also upgrading all police buildings, such as the Philip Astley Centre at Merrill Street, with net zero interventions to be more energy efficient and completely electric. The revised Sustainable Environment Strategy has a number of objectives to drive the actions needed to achieve the main aims and strategy and delivery plan, namely facilitate the development into net zero council by 2030 through the council's built environment and fleet, facilitate the development into a net zero borough by 2050 through the decarbonisation of housing, businesses and transport, promote the natural environment in the borough to increase biodiversity, carbon sequestration and storage, develop a service-focused strategy and delivery plan in the council to engage council staff and delivery service owned actions. Finally, engage with residents. I think that last point is really, really important. We need to take residents with us on this journey. So engage with residents, businesses and visitors through online and physical communication networks to create sustainable behaviour change within the borough. Finally, there are 8 working groups in this area, which is in section 3.10. We have street scene, recycling and waste, planning, IT, neighbourhood delivery, regulatory services, commercial delivery. So all areas within the council are involved. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I think I'm really welcome this. It's something which, since we brought about our sustainable value strategy a couple of years ago, we wanted to have this sort of roadmap towards our net zero target for 2030. Done a lot already, as you say, with the carbon emissions, we say, but this sets out that roadmap now to take us forward to 2030. Also, I'm really interested in we start to talk about now that wider carbon emissions for our 2050 dates. I think it's for all Newcastle residents, businesses and and everything we do in Newcastle to consider how we can reduce our carbon emissions by 2050 as well. So that starts to bring that into our plans. I think it's really important, as you did mention, the work we're doing with our partners across the county of Staffordshire, and it's really key that we do that. We can learn best practice from them. We can club together to do things more efficiently on this, and also enable us to keep some of the costs down associated with this. I'm going to bring in our cabinet of finance now, because obviously there are costs attached to this to get to net zero by 2030. You know, with the council's building stocks, vehicles, all the operations which we do, and I'll bring Stephen down to talk about that.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Obviously, this comes with a civil cost. It'd be really good to say with you on the city, it gives the idea of the money involved. What I can do is confirm that it's in the capital program there for costs. It's all given assessment report. It's in the program to be done.
Thank you. Any other comments from cabinet members? Great.
Just one thing, reflects on about costs a little bit, this does, but on item 2.6 related to Jubilee 270, we've got some projected forecast figures on the savings that it will make if we get full cover fitted. So it's not just about offsetting carbon emissions, it's about making considerable savings by not using the energy in the first place. So on the two pools, the main pool and the training pool at Jubilee 2, within the first year we're looking at making a saving of 32,000 on the main pool and 29,000 on the training pool as well. I know it seems a bit, there should be more of a contrast between the two pools on the sizes of those, but it's about heating the water that's then circulated throughout the system, so it's not about the size of the pool. And in total, we're looking at a plus of £60,000 in savings for the first year.
Thank you for that. And that's a really good point to note, isn't it? That there are savings to be made from this, not just the carbon savings. I think throughout the council, the buildings we use, I'm sure there are other sort of behavioural changes, the way we print things off all the time, or anything like that could be printed cartridges, paper, all sorts of things. We've been phasing that out over many years. I think this will be the first going even further on that, I think, which is all good. Any other comments from the cabinet members? I think we asked to approve the refreshed sustainable environment strategy and associated delivery plan for our net 030 target, and also that we refer it to the sustainable environment scrutiny committee, which is really important, which will be taking it to there for constant member feedback, and we want to sort of ensure that we have findings from our members, also advice from them as well on how we can improve it as well. So that's a key part of the proposal as well. I'm going to be taking that later in the year. So with those recommendations, we will agree. Thank you. That moves then to our next item, which is item 6, which is the awarded contract with the Newcastle car park payments.
This hasn't actually been awarded yet. It won't be awarded until the 11th of June. Two things to talk about it. It's about £150,000 from the payment for the Newcastle car parks, which is possibly not the most interesting thing you've ever done. What is interesting though is we've made a point of saying that as well as card payments and app payment and all these sort of things, we're going to have also a facility for people to still pay by cash. There's certain people I think would rather pay by cash than by card or by some WhatsApp apps or something like that. And I think it's so important that we cater for every member of our community, not just tell people, no, not do cash, we've got to do this. I think the relevance of finance and the cost when they shut the ticket offices, people do like to pay by cash when they've got the opportunity to. And it's very important to stress this will be part of the program.
Yes, I think when we've had debates in cabinets and in council about why we're having a new car park, the Newcastle car park and where it is. I think the point is it's the cornerstone of the new development on Rycroft. It replaces the Midway, which is we could never have these type of payment systems in Midway because of the way that it is set out in the 1960s car park. And as members will know, we've got plans to redevelop the Midway once the new car park is over. But this will give a modern car park town with those payment methods, as Steve has pointed out, but also keeping that cash option as well. I think it will be a completely different feel to the existing car park in the town, and it will be in a place that will enable us to bring the development to the Rycroft and get full use out of that site as well. So we're authorised the interim chief executive in consultation with Steve, portfolio holder, award a contract for the installation, management and maintenance of payment systems at the Castle Car Park. All agreed? Great. Thank you. We'll move on to our next item, which is item 7, moratorium to cemeteries rules and regulations updates. Over to Dave.
Right, thank you, Leader. We need to bring 2 reports to Cabinet today. The scattering of the ashes policy, and we have welfare funerals as well. Now, the scattering of the ashes policy, the council does not currently offer scattering of ashes. Those choosing a cremation can currently decide if they want to take it home, purchase a burial plot, or bury within the monthly gardens. The introduction of a scattering area would provide an additional option for cremated remains. This option would be included in their cremation fee. So it is proposed that a new scattering area would be a natural burial area of meadowland and wildflowers. This will enhance the environment, support a range of wildlife, and reduce the environment impact of burial. The longer grass would also reduce the visibility of cremated remains in this area. Thus, commencement of this service from September is proposed. Scattering would be between 10 AM and 3 PM, Monday to Friday. There is a full report on this in your cabinet pack. A member of bereavement service staff will attend every scattering of ashes. Care will be taken to scatter the ashes evenly over the scattered area, taking into consideration the weather, the direction of the wind, and the proximity of those in attendance. Scattering urn will be used to gently distribute the ashes. Ashes will be strewn from the urn by bending down as low as possible, sliding the lid back and moving the urn from side to side while stepping backwards until the urn is completely empty. A family member can strew the ashes if they wish. If not, a member of bereavement services is happy to complete the scattering. The second item today is the welfare funeral policy. Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council is responsible for making funeral arrangements for anyone who dies within their boundary where no other arrangements are being or are likely to be made. For example, when the deceased has no family and they haven't left a will. If the deceased dies outside the Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council boundary, the funeral arrangement will be the responsibility of the local authority where they died, even if they have lived within the borough of Newcastle-under-Lyme. If the deceased has no next of kin, the nearest surviving relative will be required to sign a non-involvement form stating they are willing for the council to make the funeral arrangements and understand that costs will be recovered from the deceased estate if possible. Once the council has accepted a case, the bereavement services team will deal with all aspects of organising the funeral, including registering the death, dealing with the funeral directors to make the arrangements and paying for the funeral. The council's contracted funeral director will provide everything necessary for a simple but dignified service, including a coffin, transport of the deceased to the crematorium or cemetery in Hurst, and sufficient bearers to transfer the coffin to the chapel and to the grave. The council will be able to make funeral arrangements in cases where the deceased left a will. Will not be able to make funeral arrangements in cases where the deceased left a will and the executor can be traced. Where possible, the Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council is entitled to recover its costs when making funeral arrangements under Section 46 of the Public Health Act 1984. The council is not, however, empowered to administer an estate. Finally, death in a hospital. If the deceased dies as an inpatient in a hospital managed by an NHS trust and there is no relatives, the NHS trust will assume responsibility for the funeral arrangements and recover their expenses from the deceased's estate. I'd like to present this welfare funeral policy to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Really welcome the policy for scattering the ashes. I think and setting aside that long grassed area on the cemetery. crematorium, and that is really an important thing to do. I think it'd be welcomed by those residents that will be using it, I think, for their family. As for the second part, which is the welfare funerals, we have had a policy for a number of years. This is an update of that, and again, an important mechanism to use when required as well. But I'll look to comments from anybody. Steve.
I find it's very limited subject. People who die with no estate and no family to say goodbye to them. I find it very limited. I think it's an excellent policy game. I think it presents it very.
Thank you. Any more comments? Not seeing any, so we are being asked to adopt the two policies which David has outlined: scattering of ashes policy and the welfare funerals policy. All agreed. Thank you. We'll move on to our next item, which is item 8, taxi tariffs proposed increase scheme.
The Hackney Carriage came to us at licensing a while ago, proposing to put up their fees. Nothing to do with the council, we just give them permission. The argument they used was they were last put up in 2019, which is 5 years ago, and we are the 328th cheapest out of 344 local authorities. I think it seems entirely reasonable after 5 years there, but it's their money, it's their trades. Nothing to do with us, really, but we give them permission. So I support this, and the licensing committee supports it as well. The other thing they wanted was to bring the after midnight, you can charge more for taxis and the carriages. They wanted to bring that forward back to down to 10 o'clock. Apparently, I'm of an age now, I don't go out at 4 o'clock in the morning, but the markets for people at sort of 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, pubs tend to shut down, clubs were shut at sort of 2 o'clock now. So they were getting stung by that. So they wanted to bring it forward to 10 o'clock to try and recoup the money. And we met them halfway, and we said we'd do it for 11 o'clock. Now, last time this came, which was 5 years ago, we kicked that part out. I'm saying then actually we got kicked out. This time it went through, and again I think it's entirely reasonable. And I have no problem with this group to support it.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I think you made a point of sorting into our licensing committee as well. And nothing further to say. Anything from members? No, so we've been asked to approve, obviously, the amended proposed variation of table of metered fares for our carriages, and of course, that's a request from them to do that. And all agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Our next item is item 9, which is the leaders board. This is just a report to update the terms of reference for the leaders board with the inclusion of Stoke-on-Trent City Council. Leaders board was set up a couple of years ago now to for all local authorities within Staffordshire to work together to better the policies around possibly having a devolved arrangement from the government. And obviously, power and money possibly is coming into the county to be spent here rather than determine how it's spent here rather than spent centrally. And of course, Stoke City Council weren't involved initially in that, but now come on board since their election last year. So we're updating the leaders board term of reference to include Stoke. I'm happy to move the recommendation as printed. Any comments on this? Not seen any. So we agree to update the terms of reference to the City of Stoke-on-Trent. All agreed? Agreed. Thank you. That leads us to item 10, which is the finance performance report for the fourth quarter of 2023-24. And there's two parts to this. One is the finance update, and then there's the performance indicator we'll go through page by page. Steve, the quick finance.
Yeah, we will be quick. The two things really. We've actually our revenue budget is £7,000 saving on the year, which I think in the current circumstances is a phenomenal achievement for us. And I think the officers have done the best figures. One other thing we did is this report only was a couple of pages a few months ago. We now put loads and loads of information on it. As I keep saying this, we're an open, transparent council. We've got nothing to hide. So the more information we put on things, the happier I am. And it's an example of that. But maybe it's so nice.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve on the finances? Okay, and then we move down to our indicator set, and we'll go through page by page. Overall, we're showing 72% on target. But if you remember, we refreshed, brought in a new set of indicators, more challenging ones, when we adopted our council plan. So we'll go through now the first set of indicators, which are in our priority one, which is one council delivering for local people. And looking at those on the first page, we've got a few indicators there in relating to percentage of food premises with hygiene ratings, and also food inspections, and also housing benefits claims, all in green. No comments from seen cabinet members on those. We'll flip over the page. And we have here our sickness absent figure. Now, first time for a while now, this is not in red, which I think is really good news. The council has done a lot of work, and scrutiny has been involved in that as well to get the figure going in the right direction. Still not on target yet, but I think we've explained in the past when we've discussed this at cabinet that the results of delays in getting appointments at hospitals for treatment, and also the after effects of the COVID pandemic, which that is one of, have really led to the higher than we wanted and higher than target sickness rates, but we weren't out by a lot of other local authorities, and also the public and private sector have suffering the same issues. But we now have a yellow indicator on this for the first time and heading in the right direction. That's really good to see. But on step 2, we do go to a red and for the end of the year targets. I think that's really associated with the previous indicator that we have dealt with some long-term sickness problems under the new policies that we brought in, and that's led to obviously people leaving the council as well. So that turnover is showing that we are on in red for that, but just only slightly missing the target at the end of the year. Nothing to report on the rest of those indicators on that page. If we flip over the page, we come to another set of indicators relating to customer services, and all in green, number of calls handled, essentially customer requests sold to the first point, all on green target. And then we come to a couple of council tax and business rates. Anything to comment on those, Steve? You've got a yellow there, but still not far from the target.
Yeah, it is. It's yellow, which isn't ideal. The target is 97.5. It's 97.4, so it's 1% out. So I mean, it's something.
Okay, and then over the page, we've got some again customer service related ones, and that is the use of the website, the calls to customer hub, and a digital online transactions, which we're in green for. But that's more and more people are using the council website to access council services and also information about the council and also the payment systems on there. So that's really good. Okay, now we go over the page, and we have a number in our recycling and waste area, and there's a few pre-reds there, which Dave is going to.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. The first one at 1.48, we have 21.7% of the total tonnage collected in recycling and waste is the dry household, which is your blue bin and your blue bag. This figure has been falling since 21-22. It fell again in 22-23, and just fallen slightly again in 23-24. So whether the packaging is getting thinner or whether the glass is getting thinner and lighter, because there isn't a corresponding increase in the residual waste. And the 21.7% of the waste is 10,000 tonnes a year. So we are dealing in quite a bit of waste there. It would be good to get this percentage higher. I think concentrating on the paper and the card would be good. If we're looking at possibly in flats, having bins with slots in the top so that the paper and the cards can go in, the aluminium cans can go in, and the glass can go in a separate section as well. But to remember, glass recycles forever, aluminium cans recycle forever, but only if they're put in the proper container. If they go to incineration, then they're not able to be used and reused because they're so heavily impregnated with items that makes them unusable. The next one, we have 32% of targets, 35%, or 32% of households participating in the food waste. Again, this is a snapshot. What we do is we take 2 weeks in the quarter and we record how many households in week 1, week 2 of the 2 week in the quarter participate in the food waste. Now, it is a snapshot in time. If someone doesn't put food waste out maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, we might just miss that person. But again, Flats is an area where we're going to concentrate on this coming year to get this 32% up and try and get to the 35% target for the food waste. But at the moment, we're below target. Food waste at the moment is about 7-8% of the total waste that the recycling and waste collects. Where it's good to get that percentage up, and then any residual waste coming down. Next one, 403 kilograms on average per household. Target's 430, so we're in green, which is good. The final one in 1.4D, we have 58.91 missed collections per 100,000. And then once again, we collect maybe 500,000 collections a month. So we collect 1.5 million different collections over the quarter. And when we say it's 58.91 missed per 100,000, that means that we had a 99.94% success rate with collections. So I think that's something that we can really celebrate rather than be negative about.
Thank you, David. Good point on that last one. Yes, I think on the first point to do with the driver side and those collections curbside, I think we're looking to eventually to be zero waste only. So to see that falling, as you say, and not to see the residuals, people are not using the recycling system, putting it in their usual grey bin, and there's less to be recycled, as you say. So that's interesting to see how that develops, and I think we've probably seen that across the board, aren't we, across the country, and that's a good thing that we're moving into a less waste being created in the first place. I think household food waste collections, we are going to see, as you say, that expanded hopefully to flats, which will increase the percentages that we collect, and also it's going to be a national scheme now, so more awareness nationally. People will see that on their TV screens probably over the next couple of years, that food waste becomes more high profile. So I think that will also drive the power of collection. We're the only council in Staffordshire that's been collecting food waste separately for the past since 2010, for all that time, 14 years. And now all of the councils are going to be required to do it. So I think we'll get a mandated national policy. So I think we're going to be set there to increase that percentage, I'm sure. Well, thank you for the updates on those. And it's good to see, even though they are red, as you pointed out on the last one, we're looking at it from the wrong way around. We do collect massive amounts of waste that we do so without missing collections for 99% of our customers, over 99% of our customers. Okay, over the page, and I think, David, on this one, you're okay because you're all green, so quite happy with those indicators, are we not? So that's good. And we then move to our second priority, which is successful and sustainable growing Borough, and this is planning and our regeneration targets. And I think any comments from you? You've got a yellow.
Yeah, there is the rest of them. I think if we turn the page, Simon, you'll see are all nice and green. So it's only this yellow one that we're looking at. I think we could say two things about this. I mean, the first is that, as is explained here, there are at the moment some very, very complicated bits and pieces going on, and that's sort of a lot of officer time. It's quite right that at times sometimes because these things do need resolving, they do cause concern. But there is a sort of knock-on effect in that way. Also, if we look at the histogram, it's nice to see that the blue columns are actually higher than the grey columns. So although the target hasn't been hit, there is a demonstrable improvement there. So I think that there is room for hope here. And as I say, I do think our officers are having to prioritise their time, and I think they're doing it correctly.
Thank you, Andy. We'll move on to our third priority, which is health and active, safe communities. So first page is related to community safety issues, which is Jill. Any comments?
Yeah, I'm quite pleased, particularly with building on our work as Staffordshire. Apologies for not turning my on. Your head was ahead of myself. We've had a range of initiatives in progress and still ongoing, working with police and including delivery of community safety partnership action plan, the PSPOs in Newcastle town centre with parks and open spaces, the CCTV monitoring and installation of additional cameras, safer nights, including safe space for women and girls, and the street police. There's also a new community warden scheme that the FCC has funded, and they're all working together to make our town centre and the borough a lot better place to be visiting. And it is working and reducing antisocial behaviour around our community, so I'm quite pleased with that.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll move on to our next page, which is the 3 indicators there in the in Craig's Gardens house. Would you like to give a brief view on those? And one of them is around.
Right, thank you, Lynn. First of all, if we could just address first on the number of people accessing the museum, it's showing healthy growth. There's plenty of visitors. We had an immense year last year with the 850th year. We are in discussions currently with the museum of Brampton Park to try and expand the opening times of the site. So that'll help with added footfall through to the future. Moving on to J2, the membership's continuing to grow. We're just teaching below the 4,000, although we're on the top to the 3K. So it's a healthy membership. Not just memberships growing, we've got 600 schools involved, and there's just under 976 children being taught to swim at the moment as well. So it's a very busy leisure centre at the moment. The one bad point on there, if we go on to the third one, the one in red, the net promoter score. Although it is in red, we are still above the national average, which is 22 at the moment. And I think a lot of these problems is we've started off a online booking system. So I think we expected a bit of resistance to this. It's been addressed. We've added some marketing initiatives in there, trained staff out to help people to book online, and I think that pain will go away. Although we are up on the last quarter and well above the net promote score of 22 as a national. One other thing is that reflects on this, the previous one, the fact that the membership's continuing to grow. I think that sort of offsets against any customer service satisfaction negatives. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Craig. Really good news again on the museum, as you say, and also on J2 membership growth. Almost getting to 4,000, well over the target as well. And I don't think we've seen the sort of figures of membership J2 before, so that's really good. And also, I think your explanation of the satisfaction is valid. I think when we are changing and improving, there is a resistance, but hopefully in the end, more members will be coming through the doors as a result of those changes. And I think that's feed through. We'll watch that indicator, hopefully go back to green in the future. But the next set of indicators come in the housing and homelessness section, which is great. Jill.
Yeah. If I deal with the rustling count to start with, every quarter the whole country does a rustling count. I generally go out and do it as well. And the one that took place on 15th of March, 7 individuals were verified. And if I say that there was 2 in Newcastle, 4 were from Stoke, 1 was from Stafford, it just shows you really that we are getting a fair few out of area rough sleepers that have been up in Newcastle. And what works for us is we have the multi-agency hub, and that enables us to link in with other organisations and other councils, and particularly the councils where these individuals start the journey from. So it helps us to make sure that they're getting, as well as their own people in Newcastle, that people out of area are also being linked in to get the right support and right provision in their area. So that's quite a positive thing for us. I think as well, as we're looking at a bit of an overview in particular, it's been a busy year for housing and vulnerability. Services seeing new demands, including homes for Ukraine and refugee accommodation schemes. The cost of living pressures continue to impact on homelessness, and we are working our vulnerability hub's done very well with that. Literally, we've had quite a few people accessors, but those figures are going down. We're also providing a new service with 2 projects underway. We focus on providing the homeless hub, supporting residents, and also 2 projects regarding damp and mould and health with hoarding. So we've linked up with Staffordshire County Council with that in terms of getting outcomes, and I would like to think that in the future we'll begin to see those outcomes and they'll be positive.
Thank you, Jill. We'll move on to our fourth priority, which is town centres for all. And there's a series of indicators here which are really quite pleasing, actually. The increase in the number of tickets purchased at the car park shows people coming into the town. And then the footfall figures that we received from the Business Improvement District, again, showing an increase as well, which is good for our town. More people coming in and spending money and supporting the shops and the markets, etc. And there's two indicators there relating to our market. And I'll pass it to Steve on this. Good news again.
Yeah, thank you. Two things really. First of all, we've introduced another market on a Sunday, the Makers Market. So it's 2 weeks away from the start sale market. I was there on Sunday, right at the beginning of it, and it looked to be doing very, very well. It's slightly different setup. They have a 9 stalls up the middle of it, and I didn't hear the music because the guy was still setting up. But nonetheless, it's a lot of people around. It seems a good addition to our town centre. Also, people who went will have noticed now that the stalls on the bottom end of the high street have gone, and the grass area is being dug out. And this last time I looked, it's got the curbstones being put into place, and that'll be grass over. And again, there's another feature I think the town centre. So no, it's definitely worth looking at. On a Monday, the pre-markets on a Monday are proving very successful. And a doubling within the stalls in the market on a Monday. So that's another day that we're nailing down as a success. So yeah, long way ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, on Monday I thought the market was really vibrant, and it's good to see stalls taken up, isn't it, and not empty stalls. I think one of the key things about the improvements we make to the market is that temporary stalls down the bottom end, so that we don't have to have empty market stalls for the rest of the week. We only have them up when we need them, which will be possibly a couple of days, 3 days, 2 weeks, and certainly for our event markets. But also, when the store's on there's an opportunity for it to be a public place of sitting, and also look some nipper parking down the bottom end as well. If people to come in and just get to the bank or just to the shop. So I think we were creating a different feel down the south end of the town. But also, it's still primarily a place for our market stores. I had seen some social media of when obviously the bulldozers moved in, so to speak, and took down the static store at the bottom, that this was desecrating our market and it was being demolished and moved out. Well, that's not the case, because they probably haven't realised that there's going to be temporary stores, as many stores after these changes than there was before. And it's also worth mentioning that some of those temporary permanent stores, have been relocated further up in around Guildhall, and I think that's really important too, that we do sort of maximise. And you see with the Makers Market, they now, to maximise the market, make another row of stalls through the middle of the Guildhall and create 3 rows of stalls. And if you look at some old pictures of Newcastle, that's always what used to be, 3 rows of stalls outside the Guildhall. And I think really with Makers Market, and obviously the Artisan Market still be vibrant as well, we've got some really good events markets that we can build upon. I think the bottom space will be an addition to this and create a different feel at that end of town. I look forward to that being completed. Brilliant. That's the indicators. And as I say, generally a really good picture. We do have some challenges around recycling, which of course David has outlined, and also it's really interesting to see, we are going in the right direction on its absence. I think it's a problem that's going across sectors, but we seem to be going through that a bit now, which is really encouraging. So that's our performance report. We're asked to note those and discuss them. We have done, all agreed. Great. That brings us then to our forward plan, which is attached on page 225. And as usual, we've got a really busy schedule coming forward. We've just had this meeting today, which has covers the first couple of pages for our June meeting, and we've taken all those items we need to take to that. And then we have a July meeting on the 16th of July, and we have a busy schedule there again, of items such as the Brampton Museum funding to the National Lottery, delivery of electric vehicle charging points in our town in with the county's Levi funding. And then we've got Kiel Sustainability Solar Energy Projects, and a Kidsgrove Town Deal Contract Award for the service and garage replacement, provisional out to productivity plan, and also planting strategy 6, and also the draft local nature recovery strategy consultation. And then also we also have an award for the agricultural service provider as well. And then we move to September. We've got a medium-term financial strategy, and we'll come to that. obviously our budget setting process is underway, and we will be reporting back on the MTFS in September ahead of setting a budget February 2025. And then we've got Q1 performance coming to our September meeting, and also a contract for digital infrastructure, part of our town deal plan, and also the council's annual report. So that takes us through to September. So that's the forward plan. Everybody agree? Thank you. That moves us now to urgent business. I've not been informed of any urgent business. And item 13 is disclosure of information we don't have any of that. So I conclude the cabinet meeting today. Thank you.